All right. What's up, guys? We should be live. If you are here live, drop a 1 in the chat if you can see me and you can hear me. So I know we got everything working. If you can see me and hear me, drop a 1 in the chat. I know we got everything cool. Sweet. Cool. What's up, guys? I'm excited to dive into this, guys. It's been a minute since I've done this. Let me adjust this just a little bit. I'll put you guys over on this screen. So I'm excited to hang out with y'all, give you a little recap of just kind of what we've been up to inside the painting company, the stuff we've been doing, and kind of let you in on my side. It'll be cool. It's kind of documentation for me as well as like doing this thing and what the process has been like, and putting myself out there for you guys to hopefully learn from some of the lessons I'm learning along the way. And honestly, there's usually stuff I can learn from you guys too, so it'll be pretty cool. This will just kind of be, like I said, the update of what we've been up to. I think it's been about a month, maybe a month and a half, 2 months since we've done this. So it'll be fun. I'll leave some time for Q&A at the end. Most of this isn't going to be about like the sales stuff. It's going to be kind of other stuff, and you'll see why here in a bit. So obviously, if you guys got questions about the virtual sales stuff, the marketing, all that sort of stuff, happy to. So let's figure out how to share the screen on this bad boy, and we'll jump into it. All right, cool. If you guys can see this screen, drop a fire emoji in the chat, please, just so I know we got all this tech and stuff working. That'd be awesome. Are we working? Can I get some fire emojis if you guys can see the screen? Okay, cool. Stephanie can see it. At least Stephanie can see it. If the rest of you guys can't, sorry. But I think you guys can see it. I think we're good. Cool. Welcome, bienvenidos, for all my Spanish speakers. If you guys have ever seen a presentation from me, that's the slide. So quick disclaimer: a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about today is production stuff, because that's what we've been doing. And in quick disclaimer, like I'm not I guess you could say I'm a painter now, but I'm not like an expert crafts person. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not here doing this live saying you should listen to everything I'm doing. You should do what I'm doing. This is the stuff I'm doing like now, currently in the moment. Okay. So some of it's working, some of it I think is working, some of it I think is going to work. So I'm not saying you should do any of the things I am doing. It's just here to document and put myself out there to the world, and hopefully you guys enjoy. So here's what we've been up to for the last month or so, and I had this picture for a different purpose, for a different presentation, and I just kind of used some of the same slides because it was easy. But very much so, the last month or so, at least in a lot of the painting businesses, kind of felt like this, right? It's kind of felt upside down. And so the photo was fitting for this as well. But here's what the last month or so has been. In terms of marketing and sales, just to give you guys an update on that, marketing and sales is pretty uneventful. I don't really have any new updates there. It's pretty much been the same. We're still selling virtually. Sometimes people ask, have you pivoted to being in person? No, we haven't had a need to. Our close rate stayed about the same. It's actually gone up a little bit as my sales guys improving and just getting better every single day. So yeah, that's pretty much all been the same. Marketing's pretty much been the same. It's still all Facebook. We did get another referral the other day, which we sold a pretty big project to. It was awesome. It's like, man, give me some more of those referrals. It was great. So we did get one other referral, but the rest has all been Facebook ads. I've again tested some wacky ideas recently, some that have absolutely flopped, some have been decent. Yeah, that's pretty much all just the same. I don't really have any crazy updates there. It's been pretty just cool and steady. In terms of winter, I was talking about this the other day with some of our clients that we do marketing and stuff for, and it's interesting. I think winter looks very different for different groups of people depending on where the business and stuff is at. As we're headed into winter, transparently, I'm Granted, it's the first winter, and knock on wood, maybe I will regret saying this, but I'm not really too nervous about winter. We're kind of here. It's the beginning of November. We've had our first snow here in Cleveland. Um, and I don't know. I'm not too worried. We're currently booking till February, which is way more than I want to be booking. Um, and we're about to hire our second crew coming into winter. I think me having the skill set of marketing and sales and knowing I can go market and sell and create work naturally has me less nervous for our first winter. And the fact that we're booked out so far in advance, right? More than I would want to be. So that's winter. I am maybe just looking at things a little bit more carefully. Like I'm not as aggressive in my hiring. If this was summer, I'd be looking to bring on 2 more crews right now. I'm only looking to bring on 1. Um, so there are those little things that I'm being a little bit more cautious, just knowing the time of year we're in. I'm being a little bit more cautious of cash flow and protecting that and some of that stuff, just because it is our first winter and it is that time of year. But that's really it. Otherwise, feel pretty comfortable with where we're at. So, um, the majority of what you guys are going to hear, kind of what the last month or so has been about, is production problems. Sad face emoji, right? Just like, oh my gosh, it's been brutal. I understand what you guys have been going through on the production side, right? I get it now. So here's some of the problems we've run into, and what we've kind of been doing the last couple of months to clean up and fix it. So problems. We fired our project manager. Okay. And for context, this is actually the second project manager we hired. But I kind of more so consider it the first, because the first project manager we hired, I planned on the structure of the business being a little different, right? I was hiring the project manager like kind of as we were launching, right? Knowing I couldn't do a ton of it because I'm running the marketing company, and I'm naturally going to be a little stretched with it. So the project manager we hired, I expected it to be a slightly more like control style role than really a manager and leader style role, right? I expect it to be more, especially at the beginning, kind of a part-time drive around, quality control. That's really it. The back office would take care of the rest of it. Then as we moved into more in-house crews rather than just solely subcontractors, that role needed to change a little bit, right? I needed somebody that could actually like lead our people as well. So the first project manager, as we shifted some of that, that just wasn't the right person for the role. Had the role stayed the same, he may have been the right person for it. So I don't really count the first project manager we hired, but the second one I felt really, really good about. I felt really good. We were so confident in this hire, and it just really didn't work out. And I think our project manager struggling was a big reason why our production was struggling, because production had the wrong leader, right? We had the wrong leader. And, there's lots of reasons this individual didn't work out in the role. And I'm not going to, sit here and talk negatively of anybody, but just to give you kind of some key takeaways that I learned here in this process that we are taking into account as we hire the next one is pretty simply put, if you can't if you can't lead yourself, you're going to struggle to lead others, right? If your life is a wreck, and you can't take care of yourself and you can't lead yourself to make good choices, you're going to struggle to lead others to make those same choices naturally. Sounds pretty obvious, but it's a big thing. And it was like, oh, duh, right? This individual is definitely a very high I on the disc, for those of you familiar with the disc, right? Which was probably one of the reasons I was drawn to him and potentially wanted to hire him among many others and stuff. And this was one of the big takeaways slash reminders I had from going to Jason Phillips' event, the Contractor Freedom event over in Dallas. Last year, about this time last year, actually, we did a whole disc training with a coach I've worked with for a while now, who's been instrumental to our growth. She focuses on people strategy, hiring, HR, all this stuff, right? Everything that goes into like team building. She's been incredible for us. And we did a whole disc training with her. Everybody on our team took a disc at our end of year team retreat last year in Medellin. She flew out and we did a bunch of training around it. So we understand the disc. And we used it for a little bit. And then I think a big mistake I made in both companies was not continuing to use that going forward. So I was equipped with this knowledge of the disc and the different personality types and how to communicate with those and what personality types may be better for certain roles, etc. But I didn't really use it. we didn't disc anybody coming into our company. We weren't even like thinking about in the interview process of what disc they probably are, right? And I think that created friction in a lot of different areas of both companies. But in particularly, that was a big takeaway from this role, right? I would not be hiring a high I for a project management role. I'd be hiring a high C and ideally a high D as well, right? A C, D, or a DC is ideally what I'd probably want for a project manager. Okay. C is going to be very high on details, right? Which my project manager was not. He really struggled with the details. D is going to be able to communicate directly, confront some of those things, right? Go lead. And my project manager struggled. He was great with people. People loved him. But he struggled with the details and he struggled to have hard conversations, right? It's going to be tough to project manage. It's going to be tough to project manage among a lot of other things, of course, but that was one of the big just takeaways I had to be better at hiring this role in the future, you know? So, um, big problems we had is just simply put, like our production systems weren't dialed in, right? Like to some extent, we're still figuring a lot of that out, right? With, what do these looks like? What do these SOPs look like? How does the van need to be organized? What is our crew size? All those things, like we're still just dialing in and figuring out. And I think the problem I kind of ran into here was I was trying to hire someone to build those systems with me slash for me because again, my time is stretched. Nobody with one crew of 3 painters needs a project manager, right? But I did because I can't be there very much because I'm running the marketing company. And it's not that you can't find somebody that high level to build those systems out with you and for you. I probably have several team members on the marketing side that could come do that right now. They just don't live in Cleveland and they don't want to relocate, and I don't blame them, right? But you can find somebody extremely high level to do that. That's just a very hard hire to make, right? Naturally, right? So I realized if, and you guys will see this later with some of kind of the goals and stuff moving forward, is that if I can at least get the core systems in place, right? And it's not like something's changing every 3 days as we're learning new stuff and figuring stuff out. It's going to be way easier to bring somebody into that and have them be successful, right? Because again, it's not like the things changing on them every couple days. Most people don't like change, right? So, um, with that in mind, here's changes we're making to combat, some of those issues and stuff we were facing. Um, we're moving to smaller crew sizes. So originally I thought I was going to do a crew of 3 because that's just kind of what I heard everybody. I don't know. That just kind of seemed the general consensus is most painters I knew ran crews of 3. One person cuts, one person rolls, next person's prepping the next room, right? Something like that. And I realized as I was just like running job costing numbers at the end of projects, and then kind of running theorized numbers of like, hey, what would this have looked like if we had a crew of 4? What would this have looked like if we had a crew of 2? Right. And my theory, based on just like, again, theorized numbers, none of these were like hard numbers, but was that if I had a crew of 2 rather than a crew of 3 and looking at projected timelines for some of these projects, the projects would, yes, take longer. Instead of it taking 2 days, it would take 3 days. Instead of it taking 3 days, it would take 4 days. However, we'd be more efficient. It would take longer in terms of days to complete, but it would take less time in terms of actual budgeted hours, right? So that was all a theory, and we're in the process of testing it now. Okay, when we let go of our project manager, we also let go of a painter who, just very simply put, it was just a couple no call no shows, which is just unacceptable. So now we are down to just 2 painters, and we're already seeing some of that efficiency increase. Granted, it's just been 1 week, so it's hard to tell, but some of that theory has then been at least backed up by other people I know in the industry that have seen the same thing and adjusted their business accordingly. So that was cool to hear. And ultimately, I mean, we'll see, right? So we currently have 2 painters now, and we will see if we do get that increased efficiency. So far, it's looking like we will, but only time will tell. Okay. We have we're changing up a little bit of how we are recruiting. Okay. So we launched a new hiring ad because we're going to hire 2 more painters and expand to that second crew. And I've just switched up kind of the verbiage, right? And how we go about presenting it, right? As I would call it in marketing terms, the copy, right? When I sent the ad post to one of my friends in the industry, I was like, I'm really proud of the copy, right? That's the marketer in me talking. But the way I'm speaking in this ad is I'm recruiting people who they want to compete and win, not just have a job. Okay. So I talk about that in the ad. I talk about how, like, hey, this is the hourly rate. However, if you're just making that hourly rate, something's probably going wrong. We want you hitting this performance pay, which I'll touch on here in a second. We want you hitting this performance pay. We want you, uh, making more of that. And if you're somebody who wants to come in and win and go get paid for the performance you output, not just come in and clock out and kind of go through the motions, like, this may be the job for you. Right. And that's kind of the basis we've been recruiting on. Our two painters that we currently have, do embody that pretty well. Right. And it's like, cool, these are why these two are really successful. Right. Or doing well. Right. Relative to the rest of the group, So, um, part of that is clear, actionable bonus structures, right? In a way they can write their own ticket. So, I've been honing in on this bonus structure for a while, and we've kind of been changing it, and I think we're pretty close. I wouldn't say it's 100% there, and I'm like, you guys should all go do this. Not what I'm saying, but I think we're pretty close to having a really good bonus structure that incentivizes the painters for their performance. If they perform better, the better and better they perform, they will continue to earn more and more and more. And essentially, it creates an opportunity where they can write their own ticket. That's what I mean by having it clear and actionable. This is something we're currently working on, and I'd say we're about 90% there of being able to implement, is not just having this bonus structure, but having it so clear and easy to understand, and that so much so that our painters understand it and they can do it, right? Meaning they can look at a job, and as we go and create a project plan, they can plug in a few numbers and go, well, if we complete it in this many hours, we'll make this bonus. If we complete it in this many hours, we'll make this bonus. And essentially they'll be able to actually map out and go, hey, do you talk with their other painter and be able to go, hey, do you think we could get this done in this amount of hours? If so, we could make this. Let's push for that. Right. And them being able to write their own ticket, similar to how, like, a salesperson would go, well, man, what if I could close at 40% and my average ticket was this? I'd be able to make this. And they can actually set some of those goals and targets for themselves based on the numbers. Right. That's what I mean when I'm saying they can write their own ticket. More salesperson language, but you get the idea. So how I'm doing that, again, this is like 95% complete. Okay. So maybe I'll come back in a month and be like, I was totally wrong, guys. But it's with a jump sheet document. So I kind of stole this from Nick Slavic. Shout out Nick if he's watching or anything. But I stole this from him and kind of took some of his principles from his jump sheet document and obviously changed big parts of it to make it in my opinion, a little better. Nothing wrong with what Nick's doing, but in my opinion, a little better for me and my company and my team. And take some of those same principles though. So there's a document with every single thing there, how many hours the painters are working on the job, what the bonus structures will be like, every single thing they need to know when painting this project, what paint was ordered, what materials were ordered, what paint's going on, what rooms and what walls, what notes about the customer, and this thing where they can just plug it all in and know exactly what's happening on the project and know exactly what their bonus would be if they complete it in set amount of hours, right? That's what I mean by, again, clear, actual bonus structures they understand and that they can operate within. So, another thing that we aren't necessarily quite doing yet, but plan to over the next month or two, is giving a little bit more ownership to our painters. As I've been looking at some of my peers and some people I know in the industry that run very successful W-2 based companies, I'm noticing a trend in that the very successful W-2 based companies put a little bit more ownership onto the painters, a little bit of that ownership that you would traditionally think would be more in the project manager's scope of work. They're actually passing a tiny bit of that responsibility to the painters to give them more ownership and relieve their project manager of certain pieces and parts. And I think that's the bigger piece of it, is giving that ownership to the painters, right? Like, people are, pretty incredible and capable of a lot. And the trend seems to be, if they can find good people and give them a little bit of that ownership, they take more pride in it, right? It creates a smoother experience for the customers, et cetera, et cetera. So a little bit of things we're working on, right? Like potentially having the painters do the quick walkthrough with the customer, making sure we got all the right colors when we start, et cetera, something like that. So that's something we're working on. Haven't implemented yet, but will be here soon. Another big thing I've realized is we need better painter training, right? And this was something that was like such an obvious, like, duh moment for me. Is that, well, sorry, here, I have like two different bullet points on this. Things that I would think were obvious in terms of painting, like, they aren't obvious. And that's not like a bad thing. It's not like a knock on our painters or anything, right? It's just they need training just like any other role. Like, Duh, right? I wouldn't onboard somebody into our marketing company and like not train them at all. But unfortunately, that's kind of what I did here because I'm not really a painter. I don't really understand that. But I know how to paint. I know how to paint the inside of a house. It's not that hard, right? It's like I just kind of feel like everybody else should know, right? You cut this in, you don't hit the trim, you tape it off, right? It's like it feels like it should be pretty simple, and it is pretty simple. But just because it's simple, that doesn't mean they don't need training on it. And this is something like some of you guys are probably listening and you're like, well, duh, like, of course, Eric. And like, I had the same moment where I'm like, man, like, we don't really actually have any training put in place for our painters. And even if that training isn't, it doesn't need to be 25 hours of training, but they need a couple hours of like training of like, this is why we do things this way. This is why our SOPs are this way. This is the way we do this. This is the way we do this. Because even if they've had painting experience, maybe somebody didn't teach them, because guess what? Like the reality is most painters do exactly what I've been doing, which is just kind of toss them in, and it's pretty simple. And if you've painted once before, you kind of know how to paint. But does that mean, this is literally a moment I had the other day? Cool, they've painted before, but does that mean they know to run tape over the roller cover to get some of the lint and some of the fuzzies off? I literally just had that the other day. A guy that's been painting for a while. He's probably our best painter right now, and nobody's ever taught him that before, right? And he's like, dude, that's how you get those off. And it's like, yeah, it sounds so obvious, but it's like nobody ever taught them that before. And why would I just assume they're going to know all the same things that I know and that are the stuff in between the lines on the SOPs? Right. So, putting together training resources and stuff for them and getting that together is a big thing we'll be working on over the next month or so. Yeah. So here's some goals, guys. This isn't super, super long after this. I think it's really all I got. So if you guys got questions, start dropping them in the chat related to this or related to anything. Really, I'm happy to hang out for a little bit and answer questions. But in terms of goals, as I was typing the slide up too, I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I just like putting this out there to everybody? But here are our goals over the next, couple months here. And we can check back in and see if we've accomplished them. But Eric, is going to be taking over the PM responsibilities just for the time being, right? For about the next month or two. The goal is to get to two crews of two, right? Splitting again from a crew of 3 to crews of 2. The goal is to get to 2 crews of 2 by the end of November. Maybe a little ambitious with some of the holidays and stuff, honestly. We've got our third painter hired and starting on Monday, we feel really good about. And I've got like 4 or 5 interviews this afternoon, which we feel really excited about, that have all come from that new ad I was talking about, that kind of new language around the role. So maybe not totally unambitious, given that I just said that, but it feels a little ambitious. Just November is kind of a crazy month with the holidays and time off and all sorts of stuff. So, but that is the goal, is to have 2 crews of 2 vans rocking and rolling by the end of November, right? Fully trained, ready to roll, etc. From there, the goal is to stabilize a little bit, right? Stabilize through the month of December, chill, make sure production's dialed in, make sure it's predictable, make sure we're hitting our budgeted hours with our 2 crews of 2, as we just onboarded 2 new people, make sure that's all good, right? Kind of weather any little bit of storm that may come from, doubling our production team effectively, right? And then start recruiting the 3rd crew and a PM January 1st. Okay, so then as we move into the new year, start to bring on the 3rd crew, right? Winter will be coming to an end there. We'll have another really 2 months of winter ahead and slower times here in Ohio. So start planning to bring on the 3rd crew and bring on a PM to take over those responsibilities, right? Assuming all of this happens, that can happen, right? Because our production will be a little bit more dialed in. We'll be bringing a project manager into a system that actually exists, not bringing him in and saying, we're going to change part of this every few days because it's still so new and we're figuring it out, right? It's not to say things will never change. They will, but it'll be an easier environment for a project manager, production manager to see success. That is the goal. That's kind of the plan here over the next couple months. So you guys are welcome to, like I said, check back in, hold me accountable to it, and we'll see if it happens. And I'll do another one of these in a month or so and kind of update you on how it's gone. So, like I said, that's pretty much it. Nothing crazy to write home about, just because marketing and sales really hasn't changed on that side of it. That's all been pretty steady. So it's really just been the production side of the big shifts, the changes we've been making, the problems we've been facing. So that's it. But I think we got a couple questions here. If you guys got any questions, drop them in the chat here, and I'm happy to, like I said, hang out a little bit and and make it happen. Oh, sorry guys. We instead of stopping screen share, we just exited right out of here. So let me see if I can pull these questions up. I'm going to pull it up on my phone. It should be easier for me to see. Stephanie said more people on the crew, more distractions. Also, 100%. That's what we noticed. People were just kind of stepping over each other. It was more moving parts. The thing I realized too, just on that same note, is it needed. I was going to need more out of a crew lead if they had two other painters, even though it's only one other person, right? I was going to need more out of a crew lead if they had to manage two other people and keep them on track versus if it was just one other person they were working hand in hand with. That's certainly what I realized. It was way easier for somebody to go help somebody with something and then forget they needed to do this still, and then that got missed. And as the team is smaller, less stuff gets missed because there's less moving parts. So, I think this was also Stephanie. It just says Facebook user on my end, but I've enjoyed watching over the past 2 years. Seeing where you are is amazing. I appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words. Other mystery Facebook user said, started my business on Facebook or on obviously Facebook Marketplace for years. Good things. I put out good work because I have stayed somewhat busy. Not sure why they flag all the ads now. Guess they want you to pay now. Yeah, 100%. Facebook wants you to pay and use their platform, right? You can get away with it. I know a lot of people that do get away with some Facebook Marketplace ads. You got to use certain language and stuff so they don't get flagged. But yeah, not a sustainable way, in my opinion, because you are going against their terms of service and stuff. So, makes sense. They're moving into more leadership roles. Exactly. I mean, sort of a leadership role as like a crew painter, as a crew lead painter, necessarily, but exactly, you're giving a little bit more leadership, a little bit more ownership to them. Pretty very basic level that most people can handle. How's it going to the van you purchased and let the work use it full time? William, I'm assuming you're talking about just like the van I purchased and if I'm letting the team use it full time. I'm assuming is what you mean. And yes, exactly. I don't know. I have no ego attached to that. I have no problem with that. Like, yes, it's a company vehicle. It has company insurance on it. I will insure people on it and they will drive it. That was a big problem we had too at the production side is somehow we asked this in the application process and somehow the one was totally our fault, snuck through, and the other don't know how it snuck through. But somehow we ended up with like a production team of 5 with a project manager and or 4, a project manager and 3 painters, and none of them could drive the van because of things on their license and whatever. And the other one, the one that ended up no call, no showing and ended up getting let go, I kind of just saw some tendencies in him already, and I was like, I think his license is fine, but I didn't trust him to drive the van, so I wasn't going to give him that responsibility. And then nobody else, like they had this on their license or that on their license, so it was a pain in the butt of sending somebody to underwriting and then having them drive the van for 2 days, and then the insurance company coming back saying, oh, they can't drive the van, and then doing that again. And then again, it was a pain in the butt. And actually, that was one of the big reasons that in my project tanking on some things was the reason that when I went to Dallas for Jason's event, I actually shut production down for 3 days. Very expensive thing to have to do, but I had nobody to drive the van. So, yeah, tough. But now as this new painter we've hired that starts on Monday, we're putting him through underwriting before his first day, and he knows that like his start is pending on approval for that, right? So just to mitigate some of that, because it's like with our team right now, we need people who can drive vehicles. So I'm not totally sure if that's what you're asking, William, but hopefully it was, and hopefully that helps a little bit. Conrad said, "What's up, Eric?" What's up, Conrad? How much can I expect to pay to run an ad on Facebook? Random? Man, I think it totally depends. Depends on what the goals are and what you want to do. I mean, you can run an ad for like $1 a day if you want to. You probably put like 50 cents a day. It's not going to spend that much, obviously. You probably won't get tons and tons of leads from it. So I think it depends. I'd say a good healthy budget for most people, not taking into account what their goals are, how many leads they want, how many jobs they're trying to book, any of that sort of stuff. It's usually anywhere from that like 750 a month on the low end to like 1,000, 1,500 a month is a good healthy starting point. It's a little healthy. For perspective, right? Like our KPI for our painting company and all of our clients too is $50 or less per lead, right? In ad spend. Okay. So if I know that and I want to be able to get at least one lead a day, so I can book one appointment every other day because my KPI and appointment set is 50% set rate, then I need to spend about $50 a day, assuming my ad's doing well and I'm in KPI. So it's all just game of numbers on that side and reverse engineering some of that. Not totally numbers. Obviously, there's the creative and components that come into it, but hopefully that was helpful. I threw a lot of just random numbers at you. Might see you around in Cleveland, watch you online for a while. Never knew you were around here. Man, I gotta find who this was. It just says mystery user on my end. I don't know why StreamYard does this, guys. Oh, Ricky. Cool. Yeah, Ricky. Come say what's up. I'm around. I'm here over in Ohio City. We're all throughout Cuyahoga County and stuff. So when you bid jobs, do you offer drywall repairs, nail pops, and cracks? Yes. So in our scope of work, standard is, we'll fill all nail pops and drywall cracks, of course. We're not going to fill every little like ding and dent or whatever, right? And we specify that. And I've learned that once or twice too, that we need to specify, not just in our contract, but on our sales process as well, that like, we're not going to fix every single little ding and dent as your walls have gotten them over time. And obviously if there is like significant drywall repair and stuff, we have things to account for that in the bidding process to bid it more. So for the incentive program, how is it structured? Is it a bonus based on allocated labor for the job? Example, you budget $1,000 for labor for the job. If they get done for 800, they get bonuses for the remaining 200. Yes, for the most part. So here is how I have it structured currently. Okay. I have it set up so that exactly however many hours is budgeted for. So we have budgeted hours and then we have actual hours. So exactly, let's say budgeted hours was 100. They get it done in 80 hours. Okay. Then I'm going to take those 20 hours times our hourly rate. And then right now we take 75% of that and give it as a bonus. Okay. I was actually doing a podcast with Mike Gore Hickman yesterday. He was telling me he would recommend giving them the whole bonus. So we're playing around with that. We've messed with doing it the whole. We just kind of trying to figure out what makes the most sense. So we're figuring that out. But yes, 75% of it goes back to them. And this is one of the new iterations we've had with that, because originally when we had the bonus structure set up, it was basically by day. Like if it got completed a day early, then they got this bonus, that bonus, whatever. But it's not as simple as that, right? And sometimes somebody's out for a day because they had a dentist appointment and they had this, or their car broke down or whatever, or this person had to leave right at 4, but somebody else stayed for an extra hour to finish that room, so it was done for the day, right? You have some of those nuances. So with that jump sheet document I was talking about that I stole from Nick and kind of reiterated, it tracks each person's hours to the job. So then let's say it was a 100-hour job completed in 80 hours, but one of my painters worked 50 hours and the other painter worked 30 hours. Well, the person that worked 50 hours should get more of that bonus, right? Of course. So it actually breaks it up, and it's just a bunch of like Excel automations and stuff in just Google Sheets, but it actually breaks that bonus up and weights it per the hours they worked on it. So if somebody put more hours into that job, they're obviously going to get a bigger portion of that bonus when it's all said and done. And then we also have a small bonus for Google reviews, and if they get any referrals that they get while on the job site. So that's kind of how that's broken out. And I have a few more ideas with it, but we're keeping it simple for now while we get production a little bit more dialed in. So, but I have found in terms of like finding a bonus structure that really works. I have found this so far to be really, really solid for the team. And the next step is getting them to fully understand it and being able to like put in their own projections, right? That's like step 2 for us, what I was talking about there. Cause I've had 1 or 2 moments where I've been able to pull up my phone and like show them, walk through and be like, do you guys realize you bonused on this? And like, hey, Chris, because you worked you worked 10 hours on that job. It was a small little project. And so, I knew you weren't able to come in yesterday, but you worked, 3 hours on that job. Chris, you got a $143 bonus because of that. People are like, holy crap, right? And you can be dang sure there's some extra motivation going into the next job. And it's been super cool just to see them get excited about their hard work paying off, right? We've had a couple jobs where, some of our painters have made $28, $30 an hour, right? Which in Cleveland is freaking lot for a entry-level painter. It's like unheard of. So hopefully that gives some context to how we're currently doing the bonus structure and how I'm thinking about it. Where are you located? We are in Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland. Cool, William. That's what I was getting at. Do you think it's better to hire W-2 than 1090? If so, why? I'm assuming you're talking about like in-house team members, right? When you say 1099, not subcontractors. So obviously, if they're subcontractors that are effectively 1099, and if they're 1099, they're effectively like a subcontractor, right? So kind of the same. Look, I love subcontract-based businesses in theory. I think they're freaking awesome. I know a lot of people that run very successful subcontract-based businesses, and that was the plan when starting ours. I've had some pretty rough experiences with them. Doesn't mean it can't work. Doesn't mean it's not phenomenal. This just means it hasn't done super well for me. And I've had more success on the W-2 side. I think it leans more into our natural skill sets and the skill sets I've developed over the last few years running the marketing side. I think one thing we do very well on the marketing side and have done very well is build an incredible team, build an incredible culture. I think we've done very well at building people up and helping people grow, right? Some team members on my marketing side, if you look at where they were when they started with us to now where they are now, in terms of their skill sets, in terms of their income, in terms of all of it, it's like night and day. You don't even recognize the people anymore from when they started 2 years ago, right? Which is really freaking cool. It's something I love. It's something I'm really proud of and really passionate about. So I think with that in mind, while it's been different on the painter side, I think I have more of that ability on the W-2 side, and going more W-2, I have the ability to lean into that skill set a little bit more. And my team as well, right? The team and the people we hire, like we all have the ability to do more of that, create more culture. And I think that's harder with subcontractors. So that's why I've been leaning more into that. If you're talking about people that are full-time with you, depends on the structure of it, but most likely if you're structuring it like most painting companies, W-2 is the correct legal way to go. If they're full-time with you, that's all they do, but you can start to get into a gray area there. Michael said, can you share your pay structure base and what the commission looks like? Yeah. So our painters right now make $18.75 an hour, which again, this is gonna be so dependent on your market. Like keep in mind, Cleveland's the second poorest city in America, right behind Detroit. Right. So $18.75 an hour, which for a entry level painter, from what I believe in my market research, for an entry level painter or sort of just beginner level painter, maybe they painted for a year, 6 months to a year, they've sort of had that position before. It's a really, really solid rate. You're probably not going to find much better than that as an entry level painter. So that's their base rate. Honestly, if I was going back, I may actually lower it a little bit more. That way, how do I say it? I'd actually lower it a little bit more. That way, more of their earning was coming from the performance, right? That way, they saw a bigger portion of their check coming from the performance, and they saw them getting rewarded per their performance. It also helped me in the recruiting sense of just being able to say, again, attract the people that they're excited about that they want to come compete and they want to go get paid on their performance and they're competitive. Attract the person that's like, oh, the base is only this. Like, no, I want to attract the person that's like, oh, the base is that, but I can earn how much if I do well, right? That's the person I'm trying to attract. So I think it's finding that sweet spot, and I think it's what I'm still kind of experimenting with and figuring out. Finding that sweet spot to have the base pay rate high enough, finding that sweet spot high enough but low enough that you attract the right people that want this competitive mindset and want to go get paid for their performance, right? So that's kind of the theory. Again, could be totally wrong. We'll report back in a month or two. Is it based off 50% GP or more? What percentage? And also base. So kind of the same question, but yeah, exactly. We do base off a projection of 1 to hit 50% GP. And the goal is to actually even raise that. I want to be hitting above 50% GP in the future. Project manager comp plan. So our project manager comp plan at the time was it was a base salary, $5,000 a month, and then a percentage of projects that were in KPI, meaning they hit above a 45% gross profit or more, and they got a percentage of that gross profit that they had hit. So they were incentivized to run more and more and more profitable jobs. Going forward, when we hire the next project manager, I will be making a couple of adjustments to that. to also incentivize Google reviews and some other things as well, going forward in the future. So, mystery Facebook user also said, hold on, I think I can figure out who this is. I don't know. How much do you typically mark up your jobs? So the way we bid, it's not really like marking up a project, right? It's not like I'm going, oh, it's going to take this many hours and this much materials, and how much am I going to mark that up? I know that's how a lot of people bid. It's not how we have. Because we're selling this all virtually, we use a piece pricing methodology, which is similar to like how people would quote cabinets, right? Usually, like they do usually by door, by opening, or whatever. Same thing. So we have what we call kind of a standardized medium room, a standardized small room, a standardized large room, whatever. And it's going to fit in certain parameters. And then we have a pricing based on that size of room. Right now, of course, that does get then tied back to production hours or production times and everything. Right. I know if we're going to charge $400 before materials for a regular standard bedroom, and I know it's going to take one of my painters 3 hours to paint that bedroom, or whatever, right? So it is based on that a little bit, but because that I don't necessarily have like a we mark up this necessarily. The goal is always hit 50% GP or higher, and that standard is going to be raising for me personally over the next several months as we get production a little bit more dialed in. So, what are the roles for your project manager? Right now, the project manager again is me. Because we let go of our project manager, and that is me for the time being. But the roles of the project manager were to communicate with the customers prior to the day of the work being started, right? Communicate with them, verify all the scope of work, order all the paint and materials from Sherwin. And they were also responsible for overseeing and coaching and leading our painters, right? Our painters were their direct reports, right? So they were responsible for hiring, firing our painters, all that sort of stuff that goes into it, right? That is their team. They are the manager of that team. So they're responsible for the client relationship, but also the relationship with those team members and the performance of those team members at its core. We could go on and on and on through, the full job description and everything of the project manager, but at its core, that's really what it was. Back to the drywall repairs. How do you explain to the customer about what level or quantity of repairs are included? We are technically drywall repair heavy, and I want to transition away or make our standard service our premium service. I think we are offering more than market wants or wants to pay for as our standard. It's above PCA guidelines and trying to figure out how to dial that back. Yeah, 100%. I think that's one thing. Slavic said it so well whenever he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said that like, don't hate me if I'm get this quote slightly wrong, Nick. But he said that like our customers typically want about 80% of the standard we're painting to in terms of the quality, right? Naturally, we're going to notice all sorts of these little things and whatever that, your average homeowner is never even going to notice or really even care about. Right. So, I guess to answer your question, I mean, that's literally just exactly how we do it. Like in our sales process, that's exactly what we say is like, cool. Hey, we're going to prep. So what that looks like is we're going to move the furniture, blah, 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 blah. Right. We talk about that. Say we'll go through and fill any nail holes. Right. We'll go through and fill any nail holes, patch anything. Right. Obviously, I don't say this part, but obviously, so like somebody put a fist through the wall, right? Like we're going to patch that. We're going to, bid that accordingly as well. But we're not going to go fix every little ding and dent. Right. Odds are if your home isn't brand new, your walls are going to naturally have some dings and dents. You're going to notice some of those that you didn't notice before when the colors change. That's part of it. But we'll fill in any nail holes and all that stuff as we go. So I don't know. I think it's pretty simple. It's just kind of telling them what the standard is. And then if obviously they have questions or concerns about it, that comes up. But I think it's just as simple as the expectations you set, right? What expectations is it that you set? I think it's just a matter of choosing to set different expectations with your customers, and you'll see how your customers react. You'll see how your market reacts. But like you said, if you think it's over the standards of your market, my guess is it's just as easy as setting different expectations in the sales process. So, and I bet you that's it. Probably don't even need to change your pricing. You probably charge the same, just set slightly different expectations. Would be my take on it, but cool. Do we got any other questions? Going once, going twice. If not, we'll wrap up here. Cool. I think we're good. Cool. I appreciate you guys coming to hang out. These are fun. I really really enjoy these, and I think it'll be cool in 5 years to look back on this in a lot of ways too, and see the beginning of the first painting company and everything. So it'll be cool to see. But I appreciate you guys hanging out. I appreciate you guys asking questions. Hopefully, you guys can learn a little bit from some of the mistakes I'm currently making and the stuff I'm doing. Again, I'm not saying you guys should do any of the stuff I'm doing. Okay, I'm not saying I'm some production expert or anything. I'm not. My area is marketing and sales. That's the area that I know. So, but hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you guys enjoyed hanging out on your Saturday morning with me. I appreciate you guys. If you need anything, if there's anything I can help with or be of assistance to you guys, hit me up. I'm here to help. Our team is here to help. And I'll catch y'all on the flip side. See you guys.